Hey guys, my name is Bryce, and today I'm doing a kind of a different video from usual as an intro, and then I'll sort of resume a regular sort of set review and unboxing. The reason why I'm showing these first generation original Bionicles is today's going to be kind of a bittersweet video for me to make, and the reason for it is I'll be revealing a set that's fairly old by now, but the story behind it is kind of why I'm actually showing it to you now. The set in question is fresh from the LEGO store at the moment. The only thing that isn't part of this experience right now going to the LEGO store is the receipt. And this set is the Mask Maker versus the Skull Grinder. That's Ekimu versus the Skull Grinder. Reason why I'm showing this, and even the flyer about all the cool events that are happening at the store I got it from in Vancouver, is sadly I get the feeling that this is the last, at least currently in my experience where I'm at now and everything, this could very well be the last Bionicle set that I buy in stores, and that's where the sort of bittersweet thing ends, where I'm excited. I get to open up another Bionicle set, and I'll be doing separate videos where I'm editing the actual parts and everything, but this is kind of a bittersweet throwback by this point, because I'm going to kind of have it saved away until basically Bionicle ceases to go on. The reason why I brought this up and why I had the sort of foresight to say this is really came up from the cashier who I was speaking with when I went to go and buy this, because it was on sale. It was a pretty good deal, especially considering Canadian prices, which are more pricey than American ones. And what happened was that cashier just brought up, hey, this is a great price, and you guys must have sold out of the new sets of, the new Beast sets and everything a lot earlier than expected. And she said, actually, we're not currently selling the new Bionicle sets anymore. Those are only available online. Which was shocking to me. I had heard nasty rumors and things like that, and I was fortunately able to buy my new sets at Toys R Us. Whether or not that was an error, I don't know the details at this point. I might link annotations otherwise. However, as it is now announced, this is the last Bionicle set I've been able to buy from a LEGO store, and just wanted to have like the bag and the event paraphernalia and everything included. I mean, probably not for a while will this be significant, but looking back, it'll be something that I won't be able to do anymore, so I just wanted to have that saved. Now, that aside though, I think it's best for these two to kind of be in the last frame before we transition onto the unboxing, but this is where I started with Bionicle. Unfortunately, Tahu's sword has been missing for a couple years now, so that's the reason why, but it's been interesting reading the book brick by brick. To get really specific, on page 177 in the Exploring the Full Spectrum of Innovation section, this is what kind of stuck out to me, was, as it turned out, Bionicle wrapped its peak sales in 2002, then began a long but very profitable return to Earth. That's what stuck out to me. I've been so used to the idea that Bionicle has just been this continuous, miracle-making line of toys that had a sort of brief disappearance, and then had a slight deviation in the sort of Technic action figure build into Hero Factory, then making, a glorious return with its own Netflix show and things like that, to be kind of back in at full force. But it was eye-opening for me in this book to actually learn that Bionicle, since they stopped making Borak as the villains basically and deviated into new characters, hasn't been as successful as it seemed to have been for going on for so long, essentially. And that was a real shock to me, but at the same time, it makes sense why it can only go on for so long. And learning the numbers there, it actually was pretty amazing it was actually able to continue as long as it did. So this is a long preamble, but these are just kind of my thoughts and like a grand summary for those who are interested. Now that you've clicked on the jump, this is going to continue on now where we begin with the unboxing. So for those who were listening before, thanks for taking the time. So in the flyer, they're talking about a bunch of kind of fun little accessories that you can get based on certain purchases, a bunch of events and everything kind of going on, and on the back it's just sort of followed by a few other events and the imagination thing that I'm actually going to be going to now that I've got my ticket and everything, so that'll be exciting to see. And after the box, let's begin. Oh, also, one nice side note, while the employee at the till was explaining to me that regrettably BIONICLE wouldn't be available for purchase in-store anymore, she was able to give me this free shipping card, which is really quite generous of her, so I appreciated that, especially considering how she didn't necessarily have to. This is definitely, I guess, not news to some people, but in any case though, on with the box. Now, the first thing that jumps out to me is the thing that I saw for the very first time, I guess, to sort of explain that BIONICLE was coming back at some point, was this. Here's the mask that I saw in, at first, a screen capture of what was a Rhino file. And it's just as regal as I expected it to be. And here we have the set. So to begin with, let's start with the Mask of Creation. Now this one has a little fancy display case basically. I like the fact that the stand itself has a clear neck on it. The base is blue, so it's more visible, but I don't think it's particularly distracting, especially considering it also matches with Ekimu's sort of gold and blue look and everything. It feels very cohesive that way. My one concern though is the fact that even though it is nice to be able to see right through the eye sockets, there's kind of a problem where it's sort of difficult to have it stand up. It takes a bit of fidgeting, but as soon as you have it propped up and in one place, it's quite easy to kind of keep up and everything. So Ekimu has a lower body of a regular protector and then an upper body of a Toa, essentially. So aside from the sort of little legs that have, you know, decent golden armor for protection, he's actually armed with one, a spinning shield, which also has like spinning teeth and everything on it, which is great. But he also has a blaster hammer, which really has just got concussive abilities with the gearbox moving his arm up and down. And then he's also able to spin this, or spin the back of the handle, and actually fire off a bunch of studs, which I won't do because, again, those go missing easily. But for the hammer action, you can see actually holds quite well in its position, and it can come smashing down to fight his foe, which is the Skull Grinder. Now, the name is a bit of a misnomer. It could be Skull Smasher, but that was already taken. But in any case, though, the Skull Grinder is armed with a sword with those little sort of picks that are quite great at hooking into masks and tearing them right off. And as well, he has the perfect sort of capturing device for such things, where he can take a mask and essentially get it caught in these three prongs and essentially deliver a mask, or at least to keep it ensnared in the clutches of this sort of three-way axe, essentially. So it's both offensive and can also sort of store masks in the meantime while he's wreaking the rest of his evil. Now his build is interesting, just to spin him more towards you to get a look at it. I was a little unsure of the Skull villain series, where these bone parts, just unlike the rest of BIONICLE, really don't have a lot of connection pieces. Now, there have been a lot of decorative parts in the past, you know, even such examples as horns and everything, but for something to be a fundamental body part that could be used for arms, legs, etc., seems weird to only have 2 contact points, which really just goes to show how spoiled most people are by LEGO's, multifaceted connection points. Certainly for weapons such as this one even, there's no actual hole for any sort of axle or stud to attach to, so another case in point, nothing's perfect. But in any case though, I like the rest of it though, almost entirely basically, from the highly detailed mask, which, as you can kind of see up close, comes in really great details. It's both got sort of glossy and a matte finish on it, and I think that the jaw details are really cool, and just overall I'm quite happy with it. As for the rest of it, it's got little horns, which when you knock the horns around you can actually dislodge and send the mask flying basically, so that's an objective for Ekimu over here. And as well, his chest piece, as you can see from here, but I'll bring up closer, is super detailed, and I really like it. I really like the symmetry of it. Even in the past with the asymmetrical pieces that mostly the Toa originally had, wasn't quite sure about those, but this one's great with a sort of like little chain just to add a little bit of asymmetry to it, but it definitely feels very official and very much in place of where it is. Unfortunately, you can still see the ball joints on the sides, but considering the price and everything else included in this set, really hard to complain about that. The massive kneecaps and the massive shoulder plating parts are, totally at home in this sort of idea of where all the Skull villains have very exaggerated and very skeletal sort of frameworks to them. So this is kind of the big boss of it all, so it very much makes sense that everything is in its most extreme. And that sums it up for the Skull Grinder. So to summarize the set in general, really like it. Especially, not only is it very clear who the villain is versus the sort of main underdog hero, I really like the sort of equal match between offense and defense of both of these. I mean, between the huge armor, but also the major weak points, and the fact that there's like a ranged attack versus just a undefeatable melee attack. These two seem very evenly matched.